Hello, this is Cade, and welcome to the first installment of Liberate Your Life TV. Today, I'm delighted to have my guest and dear friend Farhana Dhalla with us. She's the visionary and leader of the enlightened divorce movement, and with a remarkable ability to find the blessings in every situation, she guides people to having a paradigm shift with their circumstance, allowing them to unlock the gifts of their situation and open into a magnificent life that's waiting for them. She's also the mom of 3 children and the author of the #1 international best-selling book, Thank You for Leaving Me. It went straight to the top of the bestsellers within hours, and it's been recommended by the Chopra Center, Lisa Nichols, and Neil Donald Walsh wrote the foreword to it. So that's pretty impressive. And I'm just so blessed to have you on here with me and to be able to call you my friend. Welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for letting me launch with you right now. Liberate Your Life TV. Thanks so much, baby.
You're welcome. Well, I mean, that kind of leads into, why are we doing this and what's this about? And, literally, I mean, to let people in on the story, a few days ago, literally, you're like, hey, Chris, I've got this idea. Let's go play together. I said, okay, sure. Let's, we talked about it. I said, yeah, we'll do it. And through that, you actually were the inspiration behind launching Liberate Your Life TV. So this new opportunity, this new venture literally was birthed this week because of your inspired idea. And that just goes to show the amount of trust and faith I have in you since day one. I mean, I remember when you first sent me your book, it was different than the way other people sent it to me. I get a lot of books, people sending me things to review, and most of it goes on the bookshelf. And a lot of it actually goes to Goodwill. I don't even read most of the books people send me because everyone's trying to get something. It's always gimme, gimme, gimme is the primary approach with book launches and the way people approach. And you were different. You sent me your book, and inside it was a personally handwritten note saying that you really appreciated my integrity and my authenticity and the way that I showed up for my audience. And you asked me if I would endorse your book. You never asked me to promote it or to review it or do anything else. You just asked for an endorsement. And I thought about that for a little while, and I let it land with me. And I thought, why her? I mean, no one else, asks for this. But really, I mean, it's like I get all kinds of requests all the time. Why should I listen to this one? And so I kind of sat with it and just let the book sit aside like I do with every other book that I receive. But it turned out that the title really captured me, Thank You for Leaving Me. And that resonated because I was going through a divorce in 2009, right when you wrote the book and right when you sent it to me. I mean, it was perfectly timed for what was going on in my life. And I remember I was living up in Washington at the time, and I'd taken a trip down to Portland, Oregon. I was getting some auto body work done, and I literally had about an hour and a half to sit down, and I brought the book with me kind of in this off chance I might read it. And I picked it up and I read the first couple pages and I thought, oh my gosh, she gets it. She gets me. This is real. I couldn't put it down. I literally, I finished your book in a day and a half, and it would have been faster if I didn't have, business, spending time with my son, auto body work, stuff like that. But if I had a free day, I just would have finished it in the first few hours there. So I just wanted to give that little insight into why I resonate with your work. I mean, it really landed with me at a key time in my life, and you were, praising my integrity and my authenticity, and that's all that I saw in your book. And so I wrote you back and I said, yes, I'll definitely endorse it, no questions asked. And over, the time that followed, we became friends, and that was just such a wonderful gift to me. So now to be able to share you with my audience in such a fresh and real way and a new way, even for me, it's just a wonderful adventure. So thank you again for being here with me.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. And you got the book because I was on your mailing list, and and like many of us, we've got lots of stuff that comes in through our inbox. But I always read your stuff because it was the first time I was actually seeing where someone was writing from a place of such present time of inner exploration and willing to put it out there. In fact, they gave me the courage to actually put out the book because I hadn't really seen that type of lifetime introspection, sharing, road rash, sharing, and it totally inspired that, okay, it's not only is it okay to communicate from there, but it is oh so powerful. And so that's why I had sent you, and you were talking about your divorce and the kind of, the contractions and when you had the contractions and then the expansions of what you were understanding and the opportunities here and then the contractions and the expansion, and oh boy, that was lifetime for me too. And so yeah, it's been like this full circle honor because for a long time I had been following you and reading your work, and then you kind of helped me unlock that this was okay to communicate from this space. And then we became friends. In fact, I think for a while you called me your stalker, which I kind of was.
Yes. Very, much endearingly so, because your persistence, but your persistence with love. There's a difference there. I mean, I actually have had to deal with cyber stalkers and cyber bullies, and it's no fun matter, no laughing matter, and yet at the same time with you, there's just always been such a heart with your persistence that you're not someone I can say no to. Like, it's not in my heart. You say, Chris, I have an idea. I say, yes, okay, great. And so I am under your spell in such a wonderful way. And today, I'm really looking forward to what we're going to share with the people who are watching. Because it's, even though your book is Thank You for Leaving Me, and your experience and mine were through divorce, we all know what heartbreak is like. We all know what it's like to have gone through a breakup, whether it's a dear friend or a romantic partner. And we know what it's like to be single and starting over again. And so even though some people might think, oh, I'm not married or I'm not getting a divorce, this isn't for me, what I really found in your work is a timeless wisdom that comes from not just, the divorce and the relationship factor, but how do we apply what you went through, your experience, your teachings, in all aspects of our life. So no matter whether someone's single, divorced, married, separated, in a poly relationship, whatever you want to give the label to your current status, our time together is for you. And in that light, we'll be leading off from the perspective of relationships and divorce, because that's such a strong pain point. And, with you being the leader, and visionary behind the Enlightened Divorce movement, who better to have on the call, right, for what we're going to do. So how did you come up with the name Thank You for Leaving Me? I mean, that's not how people think of divorce. Divorce is fighting, angry, like how do we attack each other, put the kids between us, manipulate, all the things that cause so much pain in divorce. And here you are talking about gratitude. How did that come up for you?
Well, it wasn't immediate, let's just say. I had other choice words to say. Thank you wasn't really it. But it was a journey to get there. And I'm so grateful for the journey. I'm so grateful for all the things that unlocked within me before this particular life change occurred, so that I had kind of new perspectives and paradigms to put this through. And it was a hell of a lot of a road rash. I mean, that's why I say it didn't start off as thank you. It started off a little bit like, you. But as I moved through the process, I realized that this entire experience had come as a gift, as the catalyst of the awakening of my own magnificent self. And but like I said, it's a journey. So wherever, for the audience, wherever you are on the journey, it's perfect. Know that there's just, that the journey can unfold to this absolutely liberating place. And you're so right, Chris. It's not just about divorce. It's about life. Like I always say, this book is all about divorce and has got nothing to do with divorce. It's about how we approach life. Life is going to give us endings. It's not actually, it's not news. Eventually, death is going to happen. You're going to get fired from a job. You're going to lose your best friend. Relationships will, crumble. New relations will begin. Like all of those things. Life is about cycles and endings. So it occurs It's not avoidable. But how we be with that, that's kind of where the juice of all of this is.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, what you're talking about, the traumas we go through life and the difficulties. What about the people, that, it's easy to feel like this is being done to us, like somehow we deserve this, we did something wrong, and now we're being kind of punished for it, and that, it's, getting kind of kicked when we're down, but we feel like it's being done to us. Because, it's all these external things that were, outside of our control. That's how it feels. What's your take on that?
The moments are painful. That's the truth. The moments are painful. And in that moment, when it's really hurt us, it's easy to feel victim to the situation. And here's the thing. If there's a victim, there's a villain, right? Those paradigms have to exist. If someone's a victim, then someone's a villain. And if you're holding anyone as a villain, guess what you're holding yourself as a victim. And I knew that I had a laundry list of all the reasons why I was right. But I also knew that wasn't bringing me any bloody peace. And I wanted that more than I wanted anything else. I wanted peace for myself, from my heart, and I wanted for my children. Because I knew that if I was kind of recycling thoughts and energies in here that were victim oriented, that was the energy in which I was raising my children in, and I wanted a whole new experience for all of us. So it became the catalyst for looking at things a different way. And even if anyone, you're in the audience and you're currently navigating the heightened pain of a breakup, just put a pause button on it and go back to another point in time in life where something ended. And maybe it was the job, maybe it was the last relationship. And just look at what were the gifts that came out of that situation. Because we've all been through enough of life experiences to have had already some experiences with endings. And upon reflection, we can go, oh, wow, well, actually, if I didn't get fired from that job, I wouldn't have actually gone for this one. Or I wouldn't have decided now was the time to launch my own mission and vision here. So we can go upon reflection and go, yeah, that was, even though it hurt at the time, it became the opening for this. So this is no different. This is no different. This particular environment. So whether it is that this is the opportunity to learn new skills and tools, which you'll absolutely have, or it's the time for you to be in truth with your heart's calling. Anything that, like, the soul is always yearning for truth. The soul is always yearning for us to live in our truth and be in our truth. And anytime there's an abridgment to that, chances are we always know. We always know. We always have an inkling that things are already kind of, falling apart. We always have these inklings. And if you're like me, I played ostrich, so I ran from the knowing. And then I hid. But the soul will always call for the truth. So anytime we actually know something and we don't act in accordance to it, the soul goes, hey, I gotta help. I have to rearrange things in order for you to live the truth, because that is what we've come here to be and do.
You touched on something really important there, which is that deep down we know the truth. So many places in personal development we get caught up between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and how much we kind of don't know that's being hidden from us. And yet, as you're pointing out, some part of us knows, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And that really reminds me of one of the modules in your Thank You for Leaving Me journey program, is that, I was going through it and you were talking about how one of the things we can do when we're not sure about a decision that we need to make is to flip a coin and, pre-decide what the outcome will be. If it's heads, we take one action. If it's tails, we take another. Flip a coin. And the point is not to see, what, the coin tells us to do and follow, some synchronicity. It's not that. It's that as soon as it lands, we look at it and we go, oh, how do I feel? Do I like the answer? Do I not like it? And I just love that because it pulls, the truth out from the unconscious immediately. So we have to face it like, oh, I felt good about that landing. I know what to do. I felt bad about it. Oh, I don't want to do that, but that's the truth. And so I just wanted to mention that I really like that, throughout all the work that you created, that you really have practical, real world tools. And they're even tools that someone could use like on the fly, literally, like grab a coin out of your purse, flip a coin, you're done in 10 seconds, right? I mean, I love that about, the way that you present your work. It's just everyday, very accessible, down to earth.
Thank you. It was actually really important. Like, to me, this is really, this Thank You for Leaving Me journey is about truth. It's about landing into the truth of who you are, grounding that so solidly, and then being able to communicate from that place. And in that place, you would know whether this is, because either way, as even, I was just saying to a client today, I said, we're going to work on the relationship skills here between you and your husband. We're going to put the divorce actually on the back burner because you can get a divorce anytime. All right, let's just face that. We can get that, right? But for now, let's just put it on the back burner and really work at like actually developing those skills, because either way, in or out, you're still in relationship. You have children. You got to get these skills, right? And so this I'm really glad that you mentioned about all these and it's a very practical course on developing one's truth with self, one's truth in relationship with others, and one's ability to really tap into now divine wisdom and being able to really cultivate so that that's actually the relationship that you're always in. It's actually rather glorious. And so many of us go, I don't really know my truth. We write these pros and cons lists, and we've got, even though pro is like this, like long, and cons only got 2, it looks obvious. The only reason you haven't done what is obvious on paper is because it's only obvious here. Your heart had not linked in with it yet, right? That's the only reason we don't make decisions. So we take it out of the mind and actually put it in the body, which is where all wisdom lies anyway. And we get to now see our gut impulse, like, oh, okay, I've known what to do. And you start to connect with wisdom, body wisdom, truth wisdom, your own, that doesn't look like someone else's, regardless of what the pros and cons list looks like. It's to live from that level of certainty about who you are.
Oh, I love that. And it just, really reminds me why the divine brought us two together. Your stalking, certainly instigated that. But it seems like it would have happened anyway, somewhere, somehow, just because of that deep resonance around the truth. I'm always teaching that myself, is that, while I'm not an expert in divorce and the areas that you are with the relationship, you really talk to that point about my work, which is, the truth of the moment, the truth of what is being presented here right now that we have to work with, because it's so easy to get lost in the future, the fears, in the case of relationships, what's going to go wrong with our marriage, how messed up our kids are going to be after things happen, financial ruin, all these fears, how we have to get a new job, whatever it is in divorce that's landing with us, that's all stories we're making up. And it's not the truth of what's here right now. Just like the past pains, the things we have to forgive, the ways that we were hurt and the ways that we hurt our partner and ourselves. Those are also, although it's true that they're part of our past, it's not true that they have to decide our present moment and decide our future. And so I really resonate with this orientation where when we really dive for the truth, that is what, sets us free. Even you say, when truth is spoken, the whole body exhales, and it's like, that's true. I notice that in my nervous system when I'm feeling like I have to withhold for some reason, when I'm feeling like I can't show up as authentically as I want to. And like you, I have those road rash days where I'm like, oh, that's not pretty. I'm not feeling, pretty on the inside or handsome on the outside. And part of me isn't wanting to show up. It's when I speak those truths, when my body relaxes and I go, oh, I can be here again. I can be here now. How does that really apply to when someone's going through a divorce or trying to stay together? What's the pivotal point there for someone in finding that truth moment?
Well, there are several, like I said, it is a journey, right? So there are several layers of application so that one really grounds and lands into it. You know, what the goal is that we no longer live an edited life. What the goal is that we no longer are walking on eggshells. What the goal is that we, because once we enter into truth, part of what truth reveals is that nothing was done to you, that everything was done for you. And once that realization, and it's a process to get there, I don't expect that today, you know, some people will have popped with that one because they've already been doing the journey, like, you know, their own personal work on it. And some won't have popped today, and that's totally cool because I'm saying it's a journey. Wherever you are in the journey is perfect, But know that that is a place that we can get to where once that actually clicks in and you have an embodied experience of it, it's yours forever. That means that we don't work on forgiveness. Forgiveness occurs. We don't work on peace. Peace occurs. All of these things are natural occurrences as the result of these layered applications of new thought, new, you know, perspectives and exercises, simple exercises that kind of work. All whether you're kinesthetic or visual or auditory, like everything's been kind of designed that it hits all learners to be able to have a direct experience of your own truth and kind of see the beauty of how everything unfolded in order for you to unlock into the new expression of you, the fullness of you.
I find it interesting that you're talking about, you know, you're saying the goal is, and you're talking about peace, forgiveness, and these opportunities in life, and you never once said the goal is to stay together. Or the goal is divorce. And yet that's what most people seem to come to you for is they're getting a divorce. They want to, you know.
Such a good point.
What's that, you know, what's that about? Why is the goal not outcome oriented?
It's such a good question. Thank you. Nobody ever asks me that question. Thank you, baby. That's why I love you. Okay. Here's the thing. Sometimes there is more truth in being together than there is in being apart. And sometimes there's more truth in being apart than being together. That is not a judgment that anybody gets to make. That is something that you experience for yourself.
So I really find it interesting that in, you know, as you were talking about, you know, the goal is peace, the goal is forgiveness, all these goals that were coming up, you never mentioned that the goal is divorce or the goal is to stay together. You know, you didn't talk about the outcomes that most people are coming to you for. You know, they're looking to get some resolution to their situation. They're going through a divorce, or they're trying to stay together. And you're saying that that's not the goal. Why is that?
Because the goal is the truth. It's not a particular outcome. You know, I'm a divorce coach. People come to me for divorce all the time, and they're always shocked when I say, well, let's really look at the relationship. Because you know what? Not all relationships, sometimes relationships just need new tools. You know, it's not necessarily that their time together is complete. And for some, their time together is complete. But either way, new relationship tools are required, right? Like we were talking about, if you got kids, you're going to be in a relationship forever. Might as well learn the new relationship tools anyway. And all of relationship tools all come from knowing who you are. So that you're not operating from a place of, you know, manipulation. You're not like, who are you know, like really getting into truth with yourself and seeing the bigger picture of what this opportunity is. So many people, actually 40% of the people that come into the program are married.
Wow.
Half of them will stay together as a result of having gained this, because so many times we make someone else wrong, but really what it is we lost ourselves along the way. And so once we restore ourselves along the way, then we go, okay, from this place of clarity of who I am, what is the right decision for me?
Yeah.
You know, the big aha for me came about how it is we kind of manage relationship endings was one time my brother said to me, I was going to go do some management training work at one of his hotels, and he was telling me, describing me to me, the manager that I'd be meeting there, and then he said, and she had a failed marriage too. I thought, my marriage didn't fail. It ended. It ended. Our time together completed. It was not a failure. And I realized then that not only does society put so much pressure and put all this failure attachment to it, but I did too. I had like these, because when a divorce is coming, if there's a separation or conversation, I'm telling you, every single thing, every single fear you've ever had comes up to meet you in the face. Comes to meet you in the face. Everything, every belief you've ever held that you're not good enough, you're not desirable enough, you can't make things work, you're not worth making things work for, or even the other way around. Like, it's as much trauma for the person who's leaving the relationship as it is the one who's being left. This much I know. I was on the side of being left, and I will say from all my work with people, there's as much trauma for the person who's leaving because they're running the same stuff too. I can't seem to make this work. Look at what I'm doing to my children. All of this. There's a lot of trauma on both sides. And so everything comes up to meet you. And this is the opportunity to either let that run your life and you let those old belief structures kind of bring you down into that victim, or you have a chance to meet them and dismantle them so that which wants to emerge from you, which is the truth of who you are, which is, by the way, P.S., freaking magnificent, gets a chance to really have its full expression here.
In what you were just sharing, it just became so clear that your value is on the truth and how that leads people to the right solutions for them, that it's not just what we think we want, or like you were saying earlier, the pros and cons list. It's about what is really being asked of us, what is really wanting to be discovered here, what's wanting to be birthed.
Yes.
And you touched on something really important, which is, first, you have that truth and your body exhales, but then there's so many pieces to pick up again in our lives. And, that's where, the thank you for leaving me journey, I think, really shines, because it's not just about that one piece about speaking truth. I mean, I talk about the truth in so many ways, and you're giving people a step-by-step guide. And, the second part of that journey is about engagement. You talk about when who you engage with, you entrain with. And, in that second module, you talk a lot about support and what that looks like. And I'd love for you to share why it's so important, once we know the truth of what action we're going to take, whether we stay together, leave, or whatever that's going to look like. Why are people reluctant to get support, and what are the gifts that people often find when they actually take the right steps to get the support they need?
Yeah. Such a good question. Why are people reluctant to get support is because at some level we feel some shame. So really quickly on, one of the things I deal with is how do we dismantle the shame and the blame. Right? In fact, I did a whole webinar on it. It is that important in terms of kind of where we stay contracted, is because, again, we feel like we're a failure. So to ask for help, it's also that piece of, some resistance on that. But here's the thing, is that we all need help, and we all struggle with being able to pull in that. So I give some pretty direct ways in which we actually create that in our lives. But the engage module is about how we engage with our children, how that also ends up kind of bleeding into the express module, which is the after part of that, because one of the big questions that brings this tension inside of us is as soon as we meet someone who says, oh, how's your spouse, and all of a sudden we feel this contraction, because all of a sudden we feel again like we're gonna be yeah, exactly, right. And then some people will go, oh, what happened? And all of a sudden you're back spinning into your story and you get to believe it more, and it brings your vibration down, No. So I show ways in which we actually diffuse those kinds of conversations, take things to neutral, which are not only powerful for us in terms of keeping kind of building our own selves. But they're powerful for the children, because the children do not need to be in any conversation that gives anyone some blame and shame. Because whatever, the children are 50% the other parent's DNA. Yep. So when you shame that parent, you shame that child. 50% of that child gets shamed. Absolutely. And then one of my clients said to me, it's just genius. She goes, yes, Farhana. And when we shame ourselves, we shame our child. Yeah. Linda Francis, thank you for that one, baby, because that was hot.
It's so true. I mean, in my teachings, I really come from the perspective of self-criticism and looking at how self-criticism holds us back. When we look at the first part of the journey, we're scared to tell the truth. We have that judgment, that shame, all that blame, and when it's time to be in, social situations, there's part of us that doesn't want to say what's really going on oftentimes, because we do feel like a failure, we do feel that shame. And like you're saying, half of us is in our child. And when we take on that self-criticism on ourselves, they feel that, they know it. And even worse is when we project the criticism onto, our spouse or our former partner. Like you're saying, the kids pick up on it. It's half of them. And what they're getting is that blame and criticism is the right thing. It's the way my parents do things. And they're going to carry that model into the future, into their lives, into their relationships. And so, when I was going through my divorce, I really recognized that I never wanted my son to question the goodness in the world. For me, I wanted him to know the world is a good place. And like you say, things come to an end. So every time there was anything that came up between me and his mother, there was always, if we could, we talked about it behind the scenes where he wasn't aware of it. We would talk about our disagreements, and we were always in mutual agreement that there was one thing important, and that was our son's development, to keep him at the center always. And so no matter what it was, we always spoke positively about each other, to each other, as well as to our child, about each other. Because at the end of the day, there's, sure, it didn't work out in a relationship in my context. The intimate part didn't work out. But as far as actually, co-parenting and things like that, miracles were happening for quite a long time, where it really was just, this flow of great support without the self-criticism that so often carries people in their relationships, and especially when they end their relationships.
That will be one of the biggest takeaways of the program is that self-criticism, judgment just melts away. And, she said I said she said because I just was looking at the testimonial that one of my clients just, it's so long. I wish I could have read it to you, but it's just so long and juicy. But one of the things is that how she just changed her whole ability to see things, because now she wasn't whole. She just allowed. So the thing is, we're not going to be pristine. We're not going to be saints through this. I know that I had many unsaintly, unsavory parenting moments where I actually said shit in front of my kids. I made mistakes. I made tons of them, right? But to stay in the shame of that, the self-criticism of that, would only still keep me at that vibrational energy, right? Shame and blame are the lowest on the vibrational scale. Joy is at the highest vibrational scale. So we need to actually unlock ourselves, unhook ourselves from the things that we've done. So I have not been saintly. I've made many mistakes. That's kind of how I know what to do, because I made enough in what not to do.
Absolutely. As you're saying that, one of the things I love again about your program is there's a natural progression and transition, as people are acknowledging the shame and the blame and the feelings they don't like, that don't feel good. They can get that support. They can figure out what they need to move forward. But then you also talk in Module 3 about how to express yourself in a way that enhances your vibration. And what I like about that is it's not judgmental. It's not like you have to be a certain vibration or you have to be a certain way or any of the judgmental labels we could take on. It enhances your vibration. So no matter where you're at, hey, let's just up it a little. Let's use the tools and up it a level. And I love that. You even ask about, in that module about, anger and how we can, transform our fears into, truth, and so there's just, just another gift is, going through your program, just seeing that natural progression from the difficult, dark places into that next place, and that next place, you talk about it in module 4, envision. What is that, what is the envision part of your program about?
Well, envision is now our new life, So we're dealing in the first part of aligning with truth. Truth comes right away. I mean, that's we do that in module 1, maybe. and then 2 is building our team, because engage is building our team, because chances are some of the friendships have changed, and it's easy to feel alone during that time. And please know this, that it's not about you, right? Like, everybody is working out their own relationship to things. I remember my mom saying to me, after I was so hurt that my friendship support had just melted away. And she had said, Farhana, be compassionate with them. You just ask so much of me. Like, be compassionate, like I'm the one who needs some compassion. And she said, well, you looked so happy. And to know that the two of you have, completed, makes them think about the fragility of their marriages. And once I started to really see it that way, I could really be compassionate, because I really understand that as soon as someone comes into truth with them, with life, there is a reverberation. Everybody's vibration changes. Everyone has an adaptation. And sometimes, who can help you to the next level are a whole new set of people. So we don't blame them, we really find a way to really kind of grace and honor, and then have them in the circle for the degree that it supports you. Because as you had said on one of the things, whoever you engage with, you entrain with. So we really want to make sure that you're engaging with high vibing people so that you can entrain to their energy. And then, we talk about this whole anger and diffusement. How do you handle these tough questions that people will throw at you? And when I had this aha from my stepfather, who said to me, because I was really working the saint path for a long time and really went Pollyanna and decided, no, I wasn't going to express any of my anger because I'm a spiritual person.
Yeah, and around the top. Yeah, I know that one.
And then one day, yeah. And you know what he said to me? He said, good, when I told him how angry I was. I said, good, because they've kind of always coaxed me along this higher vibing path. What do you mean good? He said, anger is on the road to enlightenment, because now you need to be in the truth of that too. You got to accept the truth of the kaleidoscope of you, right?
Yeah.
And that exists too. So once I kind of had that, then, there was a whole new, I understood now how to express my discomfort around things, my frustration around things. So it doesn't mean that you're walking saintly all the time. It just means that you have tools to be able to be in truth with yourself, and then how you actually express that out in a way that does not create cleanup on aisle 9, because I don't know how to clean up on aisle 9. And then you asked about envision. Well, this is now that we've got those tools about dealing with our current life, let's move into our next life, because this is an evolutionary process. And so we look at fear, and then we build a life around that. We even include fear in it, not excommunicate it. Include it, right? But build a vision that actually includes the solution to those things, right? And so now we start to really kind of create the expansion. And all along, there are exercises that really connect you to divine spirit. So by the time you hit the envision module, you're pretty freaking excited to now expand into this. Oh, all right. This has happened purposefully for me to experience me, right?
Yeah.
Into this next level of that. And so the envision process is really about this expansion is to, when crisis occurs, it is because something more wants to manifest. So we start placing our attention on the more. What is the more of you that has been wanting to manifest? And then we grow into that.
And, as you're sharing that, and you talked about, taking responsibility. And I'm landing with it and curious about this. It sort of seems like a contradiction, and so I want to get some clarity around this. Is, you know,
lesson 5,
yeah. So lesson 5, it's like
the juiciest one and the toughest one. I'm so
right. I mean, you go from lesson 4 where you're like, envision, awesome, yay, go, rah, rah, build, you know, see what's possible, and then suddenly you're circling back to lesson 5, and you're like, oh, by the way, you know, even though divorce isn't your fault, you got to take 100% responsibility. And it seems like, wait a minute, shouldn't taking responsibility come before I start envisioning what's possible? Or, I mean, I know you're an expert in this, and I trust your process, and I'm just curious about this because I'm sure somebody watching is going to be like, that seems backwards, because it seems backwards to me, but I know you've got tricks up your sleeve, so what are they?
Okay, so what happens then? So now we built out this vision, right? And then what happens is we kind of think, can I? Right? So now we put the pause button on that. And we go back to the relationship because, believe you me, it's still working its undercurrents the whole time. It'll be working its undercurrents for freaking years. So then we go back to it and we actually really look at this piece, which I think is the absolute, it's the game changer piece. And this is taking 100% responsibility for the relationship. The demise of the relationship or the state of the relationship, however it looks. Now, a lot of people always, and especially when I'm in a live thing and I say 100% responsibility, people's face is like, you know, I'll take 50. That's as much as I can do. And I'll tell you, I lived the 50-50 for a long time. And I will tell you, you still have a shackle on. You're not free with 50. If you want freedom, it can only be achieved from 100%. And so what I started to realize, and although that was a really crunchy, and, you know, people work that module, that you don't, you know, I'll deliver them weekly, but you work on them at your pace till you actually have a direct experience with the full module, and then you move on. So no pressure. Work it with, you know, I'll give it to you weekly, but you can work at it, you know, till you have this direct experience. And that one, generally you need a couple weeks for, because the first few days are spent in resistance.
You know, on one hand, you know, that sounds good, and I agree 100% about taking responsibility and how I truly didn't find freedom until I was willing to look at the ways in which I was contributing to the relationship, the good parts as well as the difficult parts. But, you know, it seems like a contradiction in a way, and I'm hoping you can go deeper into this. Like, what about someone who, you know, their partner is abusive, addicted to drugs or alcohol, the partner's cheating? How does someone like that take 100% responsibility? And on the flip side, what if you're the one doing those things? How do you take responsibility and find divinity in your divorce when there's, you know, like I said, abuse, addiction, drugs, alcohol, cheating on either or both sides of the relationship? How do you take ownership of that in a way that doesn't involve blame?
That's a very powerful question. Here's the thing. As most people will know from the very first line of my book, that I found out that my husband was cheating on me. Yeah. It starts off, it was Valentine's Day, and I just found out my husband bought a gift for another woman. Bam. Okay, so we already know that piece of the scenario. Yeah. And so when I entered into the state of taking 100% responsibility, what happened there was I started to see all the ways that I had actually contributed to the undermining of the relationship. All of the ways that I actually let myself no longer follow my truth, where I stopped listening, where I stopped acting like the real me, and I started to act like these versions of me to try and meld into the relationship somewhere, where I started to place my attention on what the Joneses were doing, because maybe I'm not doing it right, maybe I'm not being me right, so I'll be you. You know, and all of those things were contributory to it. So here's the thing, is even when we're in abusive relationships and where there's infidelity, where there's all of those things, those are painful, and there is some, you know, dismantling pieces that need to come on. You did not ever deserve to get hit, 100%. You never deserved that. But where was the time that you knew? that this was not a healthy relationship for you. And take responsibility for that. Going, yes. And how will we take responsibility? There's times it is easy enough to clean up. Call if there's a phone call that needs to be made and clean up. Sometimes we do it energetically, and sometimes we just have to forgive ourselves. And how we do that is just be an observation to go, okay. Now I remember that. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Is there any judgment in that? So we take responsibility without judging ourselves, without actually judging ourselves, because the truth is we did what we knew how to do at the time. Now we know new things, so now we do differently. There is no judgment in the life that you have led. There's only celebration because it brought you here, and you're freaking magnificent. Do you remember the PS? Right? You're freaking magnificent. And whatever journey that led you to this spot is fine, is perfect. And now with the envisioning, when we blow up new dreams and we just go, we breathe into them and then we contract and go, but how? When we take responsibility for the life that we have, what we're actually subtly doing is we're sending a rocket ship out there and saying, I'm responsible for my life. I can see cause and effect. That when I did this when I did this, I did, this is what occurred. And what happens is we start to, even though it starts off crunchy, we get empowered very, very quickly because we start to see that we actually created our lives. We're actually the creators. And then we go back to our vision and we go, I created that. I can certainly create you.
And, I like that, the way you phrase that, and the way you really acknowledge how we can take the ownership and take the responsibility without the blame when we acknowledge that we did the best with what we could. That's a core teaching I have, in my programs as well, is, we are doing the best we can with what we have, but we haven't had the support, the models, the tools, the community, the opportunities to learn how to do things differently. And that's where people like you and I come in, and like you were talking about, you and I have had, in that way, circular relationship of, teacher, mentor, peer, because initially, I was a teacher to you. And then when I went through my dark night of the soul, you were absolutely a teacher to me and telling me things I did not want to hear at all. I mean, you were telling me what I was going to get out of this situation. It was going to be all beneficial. I'm like, forget you. This is the worst experience of my life. Living in fear, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, unable to eat. I mean, my life was horrible. And here you were being a teacher to me and a support, who you engage with, you and train with. You were in training me to your vibration, no matter how dark it was for me. And, through all of that, I just love that the roles can change, that there's so much opportunity when we step into that empowerment that you're talking about. And, that's part of your program. What do we do next once we've taken the responsibility, once we've looked at what's possible? It's now time to step up. And you talk about how empowerment isn't something you get, and that's not really intuitive, because most of the time we're looking to get something, like we talked about earlier. So you say it's not something you get, it's something you become. What's that mean?
You can't really take a course on empowerment, and I know people run them all the time, but you can't. You can't. An empowered person is someone who is living from the truth of who they are, from the acceptance of who they are. It is an active personal journey. You become it. You don't go and pay your $9.97 for a weekend workshop to get it. It is a process of deliberately putting the next piece in place in terms of becoming oneself, anchoring into it, blowing it up. Okay, so now what does this mean? And stepping into it. And at that time, you now have full access to your divine team, because you've been building all the blocks of relationships so that you've got your whole freaking team. You can't go get it. You have to become it. And and you are, you will never, you know, last night someone was texting me and say, you know, he had just left his wife and he was having some, he was a former client, and he was just left his wife and was now going on retreat to just be with himself. And I said that was the best way, like, you know, one needs to then be with themselves, because this is a journey.
One of the things I really appreciate, you know, about the empowerment process is that it's, you know, as you're saying, it is about who we become. And yet at the same time, you know, it's not about what we get, like you said, but it is about the actions we take and the habits we develop and who we become. And I remember, you know, a few years back, you sent to me this PDF you made called 7 Things an Empowered Woman Does. And I just read it and I loved it. And I love that you incorporated that into lesson 6 of your program. Because immediately, like within a day, I'm like, wow, I'm so copying that. And then I made 8 qualities of a heartful man, you know, because again, you know, you gave me that support, that inspiration, a model. And I thought, you know what? Men need that kind of support too. And I imagine there's probably some men that go through your program too. It's not just, you know, 100% women.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of men coming through. Yeah. In fact, you've just inspired me. How about we include that one that you created and that one that I created, one for the men and one for the woman, and how about we include this on this offer? Why not?
Yeah, sure, let's do it. I mean, it's in the spirit of what you and I are doing, because even though we haven't talked about it, we've talked mostly about you being the leader and the teacher and the creator of this Thank You for Leaving Me journey program. One of the things we didn't talk about is that I'm going to be stepping out in a way I haven't done in 2.5 years, which is I'm going to be joining you to co-teach the Q&A seminars, or the Q&A, you know, classes that we're doing. I'm going to be co-teaching those with you. And I don't do group coaching. I haven't done that in 2.5 years. I don't know when I'll be doing it again. But it is one of those things where I'm really delighted to be co-creating this journey for you, for the people who come in through it. Even though it's your teaching paradigm, as you pointed out, you know, there's so much that I bring to the table, especially around overcoming the criticism, the doubt, the shame, the fear, you know, looking at it from a different perspective, that I'm really looking forward to supporting you and everyone in this way. So that's, you know, really exciting.
I'm so excited about that, and I'm so glad you were such a yes for it, because I know this isn't something that you do, and so it just makes this so very sweet and so much fun for me, because of the relationship we have. I'm, you know, and I'm constantly learning from you. So I'm so excited we get to expand into this together, which is Enlighten, you know, which is the 7th module of the course anyway, which is about how do we now, like we, you know, here, well, I know your message is your message in some way, shape, or form. Then what has occurred for you has given you skills and tools and knowledge that you didn't previously have. And how do you share that knowledge? So for some people, it may be what we're doing, right? That we put it into, we invite many to be able to be part of the upliftment. So, you know, Enlighten doesn't have to take that form. It's to live from that place in such a pure way that the teaching of who you are is already transmitted. There should be no, separation. When people meet you, it's the same thing when people meet me. They say you're the same person. It's not a you know, a persona. It is being so landed in the person that you are, that from that place you're already spreading light.
Absolutely. And you know, as you're speaking about that, I'm reminded of a story. You know, a friend of mine, a very, very close friend of mine, went through your program. And, you know, through my recommendation, and we were hanging out this last summer, and we were talking, and she said, you know, her, you know, there were challenges that they were having between her and her partner, you know, soon to be ex-spouse. And the challenge was that the father was blaming the daughters for the marriage, you know, ending. He literally would tell the girls, it's, you know, your fault. And, you know, it was just so upsetting and frustrating for my friend. And there was a lot of anger and pain. And ultimately, you know, through your program, she was able to coach her kids. So that when the next time their father said that, they said, no, it wasn't us, Dad. You know, you need to take responsibility. You know, there are things between you, Mom, but, you know, it wasn't us. And for the kids to really get that it wasn't them, that is the enlightenment process. I mean, like you're talking about disseminating the information. What gift is there more than kids that would have grown up thinking that they took on all the blame for their parents' divorce, that it was their fault, and suddenly they have a new opportunity to say, no, it's not our fault. We're great people. You're both great people. So, you know, step up, you know.
That fills me with so much joy. Because, you know, I was an aching parent. Like, you know, it's like, oh my God, we've ruined the children. Right. Like, now what, right? And so I had so much angst around that. And throughout the course, I talk about that. Because we're managing many different relationships with ourselves, with the ex, with our children, with our families, because we're changing. This is a transformation course. You will change. So that means there will be discomfort from other people who are used to knowing you a certain way. Yeah. And how do you manage that? How do you manage that and still stay true to that which your soul wants you to realize? Because again, crisis happens only because something more wants to manifest. So we like, in the more, what's the more that wants to manifest? That becomes the curious spot. Not why did it happen to me? It happened.
Right. Absolutely.
Whatever.
You know, you remind me when I was... I was going to say, you remind me when I was going through my divorce, and some people were asking, you know, how could I handle divorce, foreclosure, and getting laid off all in the same year? And one of the things that really landed with me was I really saw that my life was being deconstructed. It wasn't that I was broken or that there were, you know, it wasn't that I was broken. It's that the pieces of me weren't working together optimally. And so they were being deconstructed. The parts of my life that weren't working were being deconstructed so that they could be reconstructed in a way that did work, that served the highest good of me and everyone around me. And I think that really speaks to what you're talking about in these last parts of the program, about enlightenment and about, you know, embodying our magnificence. You know, what's this possibility when we've taken all of the tattered remains, everything that hurt, everything that sucked, that we don't want to wish upon anybody else except maybe our ex at the time we're going through it. But as we actually get through it, we don't want other people to have these bad experiences. And so we step into a new version of ourselves that radiates light around. And how does someone shift, I mean, into that final step? You know, as you talk about lesson 8, and even you told me about this privately, lesson 8 didn't used to exist.
No, and I haven't even put it on there. It's kind of the surprise module.
Right, yeah, it wasn't there. And yet, you know, now that it's there, it's so fundamental, because even if we realize who we are and how we're living, there's a sense of ownership. Just like we had to own 100% responsibility for things going down and for things not working right, we also have to take 100% responsibility for the fact that we kick ass and we are amazing people.
Yes!
And we deserve every good thing that this life has to offer us. And I love that you bring people to that place in your program where it's not just get through the tough stuff and now you're out. It's like, get through the tough stuff, figure out what you want, start living up to it, and then own it.
Yeah, baby. And so that, you brought up the surprise module, which is a lesson 8 that's not on you. So you get a little surprise module, and that is the embodiment of your magnificence. Rah! Like, all of this so that you could be you fully, unapologetically, unedited, in the full expression of all of you. And in this, you know, because we got to learn how to receive, we got to learn how to trust, we got to learn all of these things that came naturally to us. And over time, life experiences ended up in a contraction. But again, the soul doesn't want our contraction, it wants our expansion. And so that's why this has been placed so beautifully together. It is such an honor for me that we get to do this piece together, that we get to give these 3 exclusive group coaching sessions together. I know it's something you don't typically do, so it's I'm telling, and because we're not promoting this far and wide. We're only doing this specially for our list, especially for our guests.
Yeah, coaching. I mean, you and I are not cheap coaches. When I do coaching, it's it's $225 an hour, and that's significantly less than what you charge as well. For actual direct one-on-one coaching.
Yeah. So we let's just say the cost of the entire program is it's half than what you and I would charge for one coaching session if we were to do it together. So it is really, I feel very, not only have I've had so many people go through the program for me to really know this wasn't in my head. This stuff works. Yeah. And they've been miraculous breakthroughs. But the honor for us to do this group coaching piece together is tremendous. I'm so excited that, it's kind of our little nest here between your people and my people. We kind of get to do this little gathering. Like I said, this is not going out far and wide. This is just to our people as a gratitude. We're so grateful that you've invited us into your lives to share with us this, reconstructive, rebuilding, awakening process, and relationships will be our greatest teacher.
Yes,
and absolutely. So through this, that's why this has been so important for us to do together, because both of us have had independent breakthroughs from this particular kind of experience.
Absolutely, and it's we're going to wrap up soon because I'm actually going to head off and pick up my son from school, and I know you have your kids as well that you're going to be picking up and running around playing your, mom to 3 kids on top of being an entrepreneur and, enlightened divorce coach and speaking and, all the things that you do. And so I just wanted to say I am just so grateful that you invited me into this opportunity to play with you in this space. It's not something that we've done ever before. I don't know that we'll ever do it again. I want to, but we might be playing in different ways as the divine will tell us, the truth will show us, the best ways to play. And in this moment, an inspired idea was born literally a few days ago, and now we're running with it. And so it's just, I'm looking forward to playing with you. And for anybody who wants to learn more about Thank You for Leaving Me Journey program that you and I will be co-teaching, your curriculum along with 3 live Q&A coaching classes, all they have to do is just click the link below. That'll tell them all what's in the program, all the modules, how much it costs, and as well, a little bit of a blurb about you and I and how we, came to play together.
So just a little heads up, we're going to begin this journey October 27th. So October 27th, the train takes off. The train to Wonderland takes off. And we would love for you to join us. And in addition, because earlier on, just as we're talking here, we're also going to add in the Empowered Woman Manifesto and yours on the
8 qualities of a heartful man. Yeah.
Beautiful. So we're going to add that in. And also, in addition to the 3 live coaching sessions with Chris and I, the group coaching sessions, there's also a PDF of the book. So you will have the book, Thank You for Leaving Me. And you will have 3 meditations. They all took me through. There were meditations that I played over and over again in order to help me get into this, kind of help me become who I wanted to be. And so I have asked the writers of that work whether I could share that far and wide, and I have that as well as an offer for the audience. And so the button right below, just click it and take yourselves there. And we're very excited to do this journey with you. And Chris, thank you so much. I'm so happy we get to do this together, baby.
Me too. Thank you. I love you, Farhana, and I am so looking forward to October 27th when we are going to take people through this process and show them the possibilities of what can be when we let go of what didn't work and embrace the truth of what is and what will work and be, as you say, you know, the magnificent beings we'll become. Thank you, Farhana, and we will be in touch soon.
Thank you, and congratulations on Liberate Your Life TV, baby.
Yes, thank you for the launch. It is going. I'm going to do more of these, I'm sure, because this has been a wonderful experience. So anybody who's watching, you can expect more of these videos in the future. I don't know when or how or who, because this is a brand new adventure inspired 3 days ago by Farhana, helping me embody my magnificence. So she can do it with me, she can do it with you, trust me. Okay, bye Farhana, love you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.